Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming. I want to let you know this is being filmed by PEG TV, and they're going to have it on their programming. And I want to thank a couple people for helping put this thing together. Post 50 here in Castleton for sponsoring it. Public Service PEG TV and Jay Lubke, who is the technician. Dolores is his wife, and she is kind of the glue that kept this thing together for me. And our panel of caring professionals working together to help veterans. I want to identify Dave Susi, who's a senator, incumbent right now, and Bill Canfield is representative from Fairhaven, West Haven, Hubbardton, and Castleton. And of course, Bob Helm, I'm sure everybody knows him, is a representative from Castleton as well. Can I get you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, the purpose for this forum is to kind of start the healing. We all know people that are veterans. Actually, some people that are veterans we don't know because they won't talk about whatever's bothering them. Veterans have wounds that you can see. Some have wounds that you can't see. We all have neighbors that won't talk about it because it hurts. They've lost friends or loved ones. They're embarrassed by their service. I was a member of the Army during the hollow years after Vietnam, when a lot of people they were in it, but they didn't really. We had drug problems, we had race relation problems, and a lot of people stayed, but they would rather forget those hollow years. Some people just don't think that anybody cares. After what our veterans went through when they came back from Vietnam, people would rather just forget about that era. So I stayed for 34 plus years, and I'm glad I did, because I saw the Army go from the hollow years of the 70s of Vietnam through Desert Storm, Grenada, Iraqi freedom, and enduring freedom in Afghanistan. And right now, we have the best Army and best military in the world. And I don't think anybody's dispute that. So every one of you here has been affected by your service or the service of a loved one. Service members on multiple deployments. Right now, I know the Vermont Guards is gearing up to send another unit to Afghanistan. I was talking to a friend of mine last night. His son is a sergeant first class in the Mountain Battalion. This is his 7th deployment. Jeez. So it strains families, family members, Gold Star members who have lost a loved one, and Blue Star families who have a loved one deployed. My family was affected by my service career. I ended up going through a divorce because it did tax it, and we all understand that. We've all lost friends and service members who were service members, and I've traveled around the state and I've talked to a lot of different people, and I've found some wonderful organizations that their primary function is to support the veterans and their needs. And you're going to talk to some of them today. I want to introduce Bob Helm. Bob's going to be the moderator for this. He's going to introduce the speakers. We're all going to speak for 3 to 5 minutes, and then there'll be a question and answer period afterwards. Hopefully everybody got a chance to have some refreshment before we start. So I'm going to turn it over to Bob.
Thank you, Terry. The first speaker I will introduce is Sergeant First Class Richard Gallo. He's retired, and he's with Veterans Outreach, second from the end here. The next one is Captain Scott Lobdell. He's retired. Military benefits is his topic. The next one is Major Shannon Blake, also retired. Wounded. He's with Wounded Warriors at the end of the table.
Warrior Soar.
And the fourth one is Sergeant First Class Bruce Fowler. He's retired Vermont Farm Veterans at the end over here. If somebody's having trouble speaking, there's one of these things going around here someplace. You're certainly welcome to use it. If you don't want to use it, that's fine. Just try to speak up so we can hear it loud and clear, and whoever here feels that it's the topic that they'd like to address, then they'll get up and address it for you. With that, I guess now, I think I'm supposed to turn it over to number one, Sergeant First Class Richard Gallo.
Go.
You want to go in that order?
Yep.
Okay, Sergeant First Class, and you've got the podium.
Do we need this?
You don't need it.
I don't think I need this. You guys can all hear me. So good afternoon. I'm Richard Gallo. I'm a born and raised native of Rutland, Vermont. As they expressed, I was active duty for 21 years. Did a lot of multiple type things in the service. Came back home. I knew at some point Rutland, or in this area of Rutland County, was going to be my homestead to come back to. I was given in 2015, I was given an opportunity to go to work for the Vermont Veterans Outreach. Andre Wing afforded me the opportunity to serve our veterans in the Rutland County. Currently, I deal with services and resources in Rutland County as well as Bennington County for our veterans that are either combat or non-combat. We provide a ton of resources. We have a lot of collaboration with different organizations that provide those services to our veterans in this area. We're located right up on Post Road here in the Rutland area at the U.S. Army Reserve Center. We are embedded with the Vermont Army National Guard. That's who I am employed by. And we tend to get out in the community and do these kind of events. You know, sometimes in Bennington, we're at the Housing Solution meetings. Here in Rutland, we have the Continuum of Care meetings that we attend. We work hand in hand with the Open Door Mission, the Dodge House. A lot of those collaborate to provide really good services for our veterans. The homeless prevention coordinators that are embedded in each of the CBOCs, the community-based outpatient clinics that are located in, you know, whether it's up in Chittenden County, Rutland County, or right down in Bennington County. They have very good personnel to reach out to each and every one of our veterans. We're easy to get in contact with. I have some cards. I have a table set up over there on the other side. Talks a lot about it. We provide some of the booklets that the VA provides to let you know what resources and services are provided. We do everything from research your military records, stay in touch with the National Archives, get your DD-214s, help you get in contact with which I think are very good veteran service officers. We work hand in hand from the beginning of case management to the end of case management to try to get compensation and pension benefits for the veterans who maybe never thought they wanted any benefits. They were, you know, they thought those benefits were for somebody else. What I've learned over the years is that you can always learn something new. There's never a different case. My most recent situation was Friday morning. We walked into losing one of our own family members on Friday morning. And, you know, you look at within the Vermont Army National Guard, the Vermont Air Guard, there are families. Those are the people we work with every day. And we didn't stop our program. We looked at what services, what were going to be needed for not only the service members, but their family members. How do we open up lines of communication for those service members that needed help that day? We work with the Vet Center, who is closely connected with the VA. We opened up the doors at the CBOC. We got in touch with a counselor, and you make phone calls. You just don't try to do it yourself, but you collaborate with other organizations to bring people online. So that's pretty much what we do in a nutshell. Okay?
Thank you. Next speaker would be Captain Scott Lobdell.
Good afternoon. I'm like Rich. I'm a native Vermonter. Was brought up on the other side of the state. I guess I could be classified as a woodchuck. I went to a one-room school for 6 years and graduated from a high school here in Windsor. Went to Castleton State College, graduated and was drafted out of teaching. I was teaching in Arlington. And I flew airplanes for 5 years and then got out for a period of time and joined the National Guard and went in the Army for 16. So I have 21 years of varying services. Never got to combat. I was kind of in that transition period, as Terry was talking about, in Vietnam. Was in during Vietnam, was trained to go to Vietnam, and then the pipeline for aviators shut down, and so I ended up flying VIPs around for 5 years, which was interesting, but not what I was trained for. Anyway, I'm a member of the Governor's Veterans Advisory Council along with Representative Canfield. He and I have been working together, what, 5 or 6 years now? And Bill's really worked hard trying to get some legislation passed that benefits veterans. There are some things that the Governor's Veterans Advisory Council has done that really maybe not directly affect us as far as benefits go, but things like veterans license plates was an initiative that the GVAC did, motorcycle license plates. There are several other initiatives that we're working on. We're making progress, but if the more veterans who are aware of some of the initiatives we're trying to accomplish, I think if you can kind of push your legislators or people who might be able to influence legislators, it would really help. Give you an example. We're trying to get the state of Vermont to phase out the taxes on military pensions, as an example. If you're a retired person, it would be nice to be able to not have to pay state income tax. Definitely. Haven't accomplished it yet, but we're working at it. But we did get the legislature to exempt taxes on Social Security up to a certain, what is it, $58,000?
Mary finally joined me, 60,000.
60,000, but which is a major accomplishment in itself for those people who are living on Social Security. We also did get entitlement scholarships for National Guard members. So if you have members who are family members or friends who are in the National Guard, they're entitled to some scholarship for higher education. Licensing reciprocity for veterans and their spouses is a real important one, in my opinion. If you have a spouse who's a teacher or a certified whatever, is a professional that needs a license, Vermont will accept that license now without having to go through all the testing and all the other hoops that you have to jump through, or you used to have to jump through. We're also working on making the adjutant general's position an appointed position rather than an elected position, so that the adjutant general doesn't have to be a politician, which would be nice, in my opinion. We've also tried to do something to make people, or make the legislature aware that on your Vermont state income tax, if you are disabled and are receiving disability payments, if you look at your state income tax on line 12, the total household income, if you're getting disability, you're really, according to Vermont law, you're supposed to declare that disability as income. You're taxed on it by the state of Vermont. We're trying to say, wait a minute, that's not right. So we're trying to get that changed as well. We're also very interested in sustaining the Vermont Veterans Home in Bennington. That is a home for vets, and we really need to make sure that that's funded properly, because as veterans we're all eligible to go there if we need to. And there's something that the governor was very interested in, was to create a low-interest pool of capital for veterans who want to start a business. We haven't had any luck getting that passed, but it's still out there. So those are some of the things that the Governor's Advisory Council is trying to do for veterans here in Vermont. I also passed out a sheet for those of you who, it looks like this, the Veterans Identification Card. And on the back of it are 8 things to know about VA healthcare. And I think this sheet only has 7. If you want to know the 8th one, I can tell you. It's vision, dental, and assisted living care. And routine eye exams and preventative tests are provided, as well as eyeglasses or vision disability rehabilitation in some cases. Dental care is provided depending on individual cases, and the VA can help veterans find assisted living, live-in, or home health care. There's some really good stuff here if you're not aware of some of the things that the VA can do for you. And if you have questions, we can put you in touch with the people who might be able to answer your questions, or maybe we can answer your question. If you have a pen, those of you who are interested in that VA identification card and may be having trouble trying to get one, I have an email address for you. It's Robert, R-O-B-E-R-T, .Burke, B-U-R-K-E, @vermont.gov. He is the official who takes care of the Veterans Affairs Office in Montpelier. So if you have any questions, further questions, feel free to ask.
That's Vermont spelled out.
Vermont spelled out.
Vermont.gov.
Yep.
Thank you, Captain Lobdell. The next person to present is Major Shannon Blake.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me here. I'm also joined the Divorce Club when I got home. I went through multiple surgeries and health issues. Originally from Bennington, Vermont, currently live in Shelburne. For 7 years, what helped me re-engage, I guess, was to start fundraising for adaptive sport programs and for other veteran organizations. And a year and a half ago, I decided to start our own nonprofit, national nonprofit, 501c3. It's called Warriors SOAR, S-O-A-R, Support, Outreach, Assistance, and Recovery. So our primary focus is to get veterans, disabled veterans, out and about, active in the community through health and wellness. Some of our current programs, we just had a sailboat donated by another combat vet. So next week we start our sailing program. We've recruited some individuals from outside of the state to come in and teach some sailing classes. And that's out of Mallett's Bay in Colchester, Vermont. We also have a yoga program where we pay for the first month of your beginner's yoga program. That could be anywhere. Right now we're set up at Honest Yoga up in South Burlington, Vermont, but if you have a favorite place in mind in another area of the state or outside the state, doesn't matter, we'll pay for that first month of the yoga. We also do hiking, biking, kayaking. We do summer events, winter events. We've done both at the Von Trapp in Stowe, Vermont. They've been sponsoring us for quite a while, not only with some beverages, but their brewery is probably one of my favorite. And Sam Von Trapp has just been very generous with comping either rooms when we do events there, or comping the use of the facilities and their equipment. But our mission is to assist in the healing and reintegration of our wounded heroes through SOAR. And I felt that the healing, we don't need any more pills. We just need to get out and be active, engage with other veterans. And this is just one of hundreds of organizations throughout the country that provide these services, free to disabled combat vets, disabled vets. So I I have information as well back there. We're online, warriorsword.com. We also have a Facebook page. There's a registration form online, fairly simple, check the blocks. And once you're a registered member with Warrior SOAR, all the programs are free that we provide. So, and one of our biggest programs that we have is we're part of the Boston Baseball Fantasy Camp, which takes place down in Fort Myers, Florida. 8 days, your coaches and managers are former Red Sox players. You're treated like a pro player, like you're at spring training. You have uniforms, home and away. Your airfare is taken care of. Your hotel's taken care of. Everything's taken care of for you. And last year, or in January, end of January, we sent 13 disabled combat vets from New England to this baseball fantasy camp, and they love us. They you know, it's probably one of the pros tell me that's one of their favorite weeks of the year. So we it was about $50,000 in fundraising that supported that program, and they also do fundraising down there throughout the week for us, so we can return individuals and support our programs that we offer here. So probably the most challenging thing that veteran service organizations have is getting the information out there. I currently still hear about programs that have been going on for years. I had no idea they were there. So I challenge all of you to go to the website. If you qualify, sign up. If you want to volunteer at events, sign up. We do multiple fundraising events. And if you know anybody, whether they need it or not, or want it or not, just tell them about it. Go to Facebook, like the page, spread that information. That's probably the best way, is word of mouth, to get that information out, other than through programs like this and other speaking engagements that we're able to do throughout the year. So please see me after and talk about programs. And we have representatives in all the New England states currently that are growing our program throughout New England. So thanks for your time.
Okay, and the last one is Sergeant First Class Bruce Fowler with Vermont Farm Veterans. And after Bruce is done, then we're open for questions. Start thinking about what it is you might want to ask any one of them, or all of them. Bruce?
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to come here today. I live in Whiting, just up Route 30 here. My claim to fame in my family, the Fowlers, my father and his father and Calvin Coolidge built the first Boy Scout camp in Camp Plymouth. And you can believe that my father and his 3 sons were Boy Scouts forever. And it helped me. When I got drafted in 1970, I'm so glad that I had been a scout for so many years, where most everybody else had no clue about working outdoors and so on and so forth. I was in a good place. I was drafted in 1970, got out for a few years, went back in to Waterbury with the Howitzers, and then I did eventually transfer to the Mountain Battalion. I lived in Warren, built my own house there, and I worked in food service in the valley. Because when I moved there, if you worked in food service, you got a ski pass. If you wash dishes, you got a ski pass. So, and I like to ski. And somewhere along the line, somebody said, you know, I know you're with Howitzers in Waterbury, but if you go to the Mountain Battalion, they actually pay you to ski. And it's like, So I transferred. So I really enjoyed working with the Mountain Battalion, and eventually I became their food service sergeant. So I ended up feeding guys in the snow in northern Valcartier in February, which was really a lot of fun. What I did on the side, as well as being in the Guard, is I took care of differently abled people. I worked with Waterbury and Brandon, and especially those that had been injured or physically and sexually had been abused. So I worked with a lot of people that had many, many different issues. But I had a farm in Warren, and I had Scottish Highlanders and sheep and pigs. I had like 150 pigs and 300 chickens, and several dozen Highlanders, and my land adjacent to mine was Roots Work, which was a sister to Intervale in Burlington. So we had a not-for-profit co-op-like thing in organic vegetables, and I really enjoyed that part because I got to use their 100 acres with my few acres that I had in Warren. So I really blossomed with all that, and to bring people with major challenges to the farm and let them just kind of deal with the animals, it helped everybody, and it helped me as well. Although after 2001, a lot of deployments happened, and I was deployed a couple of different times. I was injured. In 2007, when I was deployed, I trusted the wrong people, and I lost my home, and my store, the schoolhouse market, and all my money, and so on and so forth, because you have to give somebody a power of attorney. And when I came back, I was injured. I dislocated a shoulder, and the Mountain Battalion lost a lot of soldiers during that deployment. I came back, I lost a cousin, my stepmother, and then my mother, all within 2 weeks. Wow. Plus we lost another, Alan Bean, who was a good friend of mine. He was killed. So in order to take care of myself, I checked myself into White River Junction, which was a very difficult thing for me to do, and the Mountain Battalion didn't really like that I did that, but I'm glad that I did. But while I was in there, everything that I owned was lost. When I got out, I tried to cash a $20 check, and I couldn't. I lost all my money, my house, and it took a long time for it to transpire, but in fact, it was gone. I ended up at the Veterans Place in Northfield with some help of some other National Guard people and outreach people and so on. And so I ended up at the Veterans Place, and it was there that this whole idea of Fowler's R&R was born. The gentleman that helped start the Veterans Place, he and I commiserated. He had been a combat medic and was not doing really well. And I wasn't doing really well with all of my junk. So we thought about having a place where veterans could go and have something to do and maybe utilize some of their own talents and help other veterans at the same time. And that's how Fowler's R&R was born. So I think it was in 2014 we were incorporated with the state, and eventually we got the 501 with the IRS, and then we were able to buy a piece of property in like 4 years ago, I think it was. So I've been in Whiting for 4 years. There was no insulation, the furnace didn't work, the place had been pretty much abandoned. But now we have Scottish Highlanders again. Last winter we had 100 and some odd pigs, 75 piglets, several hundred chickens, and now we have on the average between 30 and 50 visits per week of veterans and civilians and veterans' families to participate, to work at the farm, to collect the eggs or water the Highlanders or hay, and now we have a wood shop. I lost my entire wood shop when I lost my home. So now we have a diesel mechanic program, of which in the brochure you'll be able to see that we've actually had classes already and replaced a clutch in a Kubota tractor that we have use of, and some welding classes and so on and so forth. So now we're going to have woodworking classes as well as the diesel repair, and it's all free. Everything that we do is free. I have 4 beds, which we've already had homeless that are people and people that aren't necessarily working stay over. I feed everybody that shows up. On the average weekend, we have 12 to 20 a day, so I feed them. I have a food shelf there, so if anybody's in a bad way, they can come and get free food, meat, eggs, maple syrup, tomato sauce. We make between 30 and 50 gallons of tomato sauce a year. So far, we have 300 and something tomato plants this year. We have people coming and helping to nurse those tomato plants and eggplant and zucchini, and I'm really enjoying it. It's been a long road. With the TBI, the VA told me I couldn't do this. Well, by Jiminy Cricket, here we are. I'm proud of myself. Excuse me. And I'm proud of the vets that come and help overcome the challenges that they have. Thank you.
It's quite a program.
Before we close, yeah.
It's quite a program.
You notice we saved the best for last, but some of the people in the audience I've served with, Shannon and I were in Afghanistan together. We didn't really have a bad deployment, but when we got home, we had some people that didn't make it. Some of our soldiers stayed on for follow-on deployments, and they didn't come home. So we're all brothers, sisters, and we all need to work together. And that's why Scott and I served together in the Guard. Richard and I was at the Mountain Warfare School when he was at the Mountain Battalion. It's a community. And the reason we pulled this together was because we want to get the word out that there's people out there and organizations that want to help veterans that need help. One of the speakers that couldn't make it today is a gal by the name of Christine Morgan. Yeah. She's the head of the Dodge House in Rutland, and she was heartbroken because she couldn't be here, but she's doing some wonderful things over there too. And these are all intricately entwined, and I want to get the word out, so that's why I asked you all to come here today. I forgot to mention Bob is a Vietnam veteran. He's disabled, and he is a Marine. So we've all got something to share here, and we just want to offer up what you just saw. Take the time, ask your questions, go around and look at the stuff that's here on display afterwards, and that's all I got. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just thinking this morning, I don't know what made me think of it, but it was 50 years ago this month, right around this time of month too, I went to Marine Corps boot camp. And that was an experience I'll never forget. But, so, this is all about you guys. I hope you have questions, and I hope the panelists can answer them, and if they can't, somebody will get you in the right place to find the answer to your question. So, who's got a question?
And if you don't, it's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Back here.
Hi, my name is Liz Federico, and I was not in service, so forgive me, but my father was in the Navy, and then he was in the Marines. I was born in Paris Island. My sister was born in Camp Lejeune.
Oh, good grief.
And my other sister was born in Rutland Navy Yard. And when my father passed, my father had always wanted to be buried in the dress blues and have a military funeral. When I tried to set that up, I even ended up calling Quantico because I couldn't find anybody to help me do that. I don't know what a military funeral is supposed to be like, but I heard about how the war in Afghanistan or something, there was a lot of people over there and they really couldn't spare the Marines. And, I just know that my father was wounded in Korea and in the Pacific arena. And I didn't know where to go. I went to the recruiters, I just did not know where to go. So hearing everybody here, it sounds like there are places to go. And getting the word out sounds like it's really important.
It is.
So that is my comment, and that is the reason why I came here today. Thank you.
I just say firsthand, I've been at this for 50 years, well, 49, and I still have a hard time knowing where to go. I'll call a VA maybe and talk to somebody and leave a message for somebody. And 2 weeks later, I finally start finding maybe where I should have been in the first place. But does anybody else want to speak to that?
Well, I think there are a couple of places. The American Legion service officers would be one place to go, like this post has a service officer. The Office of Veterans Affairs in Montpelier, that Robert Burke, the address that I gave you, would certainly put you in the right direction, because if he's honorably discharged, he's certainly eligible for the military honors at a funeral.
Well, they sent 2 Marines.
Okay.
And I don't know how many, see, in my mind, I figured a military funeral was like all the Marines would carry the casket. I don't know what a military funeral is, so that's
Yeah.
where that's at.
I believe that's according to rank, depending upon how high up you are and so forth. But he certainly, the Office of Veterans Affairs in Montpelier would be the place that you could definitely get an answer.
Thanks for your question, Liz. Liz and I talked on the phone the other night, and that's, my point is that there's a lot of support out there, but it's kind of disjointed. We don't have one central location where the answers can all come together. I will tell you, Vermont is a lot better than a lot of other organizations and states because it's a smaller community and the veterans are a lot tighter. But,
On our website, we have a page that I'm constantly updating with other support organizations. You just go to their website, and based on qualification, I would assume at some of these, I participated with a bunch of different organizations as I learned from them. But if you go to the site, we do have a page for adaptive sport programs, VA programs, and national programs, that are available. So we're trying to get that word out through our website as well.
Do we have any more questions? Yeah.
No, that's okay. I'm just curious about this veteran's identification card. So is that separate from actual healthcare ID card, or is that like the choice health net care? I'm not sure if I understand what the purpose of even getting one of these.
It's for, to make sure that you have you can verify that you are a veteran. That's what it's for. It's so that if you go to a VA, you can say, I'm a veteran, here's my card, rather than having to jump through all those hoops with a DD-214 and all that stuff.
It says at the bottom that the card says it's not reflecting entitlement to any benefits or provisions by the Department of Veterans Affairs. So I mean, it probably has some. I guess if I go online, I could research.
But you could also identify yourself as a veteran, like at Denny's or a restaurant, saying I'm eligible for the veterans discount, and that would prove that you're a veteran. Those kinds of things.
It's not this card, right?
No.
It's entirely different.
Different, yeah.
So it has to do a lot, like Scott is talking about with the benefits. A lot of the veterans that don't classify as a veteran in that regards with VA medical benefits still don't have a card to say, hey, I'm a veteran, to carry a DD-214 around. This gives them, in lieu of a DD-214, to say they had their service. You're welcome.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Anybody else got a question? Card. Well, I know, I think these guys will be, they're not gonna race out of the building. If you would rather talk one-on-one as you're mingling, maybe that will work as good or better for you. So, unless there's more to do here, Harry, anything?
nope, we've got the hall until 4 o'clock. So you can stay as long as you want, talk. I encourage communication to all these people. They came here because they believe in what they're doing. and they really want to help. So if you know people that are veterans that have got an issue, and they won't talk about it, get them in touch with us. Get them in touch with me, because this is what I want to do. I've got a farm in Pulteney that I just, because of some regulation problems, I decided to close it and do something else. But I would certainly love to do what Bruce Fowler is doing. And if things don't, things I'm trying to do right now don't work out, that's probably what I'm going to do. But that's all I got. Thanks for coming.
Question?
Laura? A couple of announcements
Before
too.
everyone breaks off and does one-on-one and so on, those in their audience, if you have suggestions
Yep.
for what we can present as a program the next time, we plan on continuing these through Rutland County, maybe through the fall, before the roads get too bad. But we need feedback from you as well as to what you think the needs are. It might not necessarily be what you need, it might be what your neighbor needs. But help us put programs together. And most of all, thank you all for giving up your Sunday afternoon to contribute to something for vets, put together by vets. Thank you very much.
I have one question. Does anybody know how many veterans there are in the state of Vermont? Any idea? There's over 40,000 of us, which surprised me. I did some research. The last time I counted, there was about 48,000 veterans in Vermont. Yes, we are, but I didn't realize that there were that many.
How many disabled?
Disabled, I can tell you how many non-disabled retirees there are, but I don't know how many non-disabled. I could find that data for you, if you're really
How many
interested.
disabled vets?
Yep.
And how can we get information about our programs through the state? Like get out there on the VA website or?
That's something that I really think we should work on, is because we have a Veterans Office of Veterans Affairs, but I don't know that people are aware that it exists. And
Veteran Affairs, if you have flyers, you can contact the Veteran Affairs Office. They have Facebook pages as well. If you want to put like we posted this one on the Veteran Affairs Facebook site, as well as our Vermont Veterans Outreach Program site. They will put your stuff out there for you.
State or national?
That would be a state level, Veteran Affairs.
Tom, did you have a question?
I was just gonna ask, because I'm retired, is there any of these groups that are looking for bodies just to help?
Yeah, right there.
Yeah. I actually was in the mountain company before it was anything.
Oh, my God.
I was one of the first charter members, I think there was 30 of us.
Yeah,
And we didn't even have a name then, we were just the mountain
right,
guys.
sure.
Can you drive? Do you have a driver's license?
I do, yeah.
There's volunteer work at the DAV. They're always looking. One of our largest problems in the state of Vermont is transporting our veterans.
Yeah,
right.
The DAV in our Rutland County area and Bennington County are always looking for volunteers, Monday through Thursday in the Rutland area, Tuesdays and Thursdays down in Bennington. They will take you on board if you want to give up your time and volunteer with their service.
Yeah, the White River is quite a
To drive for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just actually helped a homeless veteran that came on board with Chris Morgan. She got her license, and she actually is giving back now by volunteering her time, as well as someone donated her a car. But she'll be driving with the DAV. She went through and got all credentialed, and she'll be picking up that as an additional means. But also networking is huge. There's a lot of programs out there that are always looking for volunteers.
If I can
Yes, sir.
jump in here again. One of the things that I'm looking for is, and we've been looking for and working on for a couple of years now, is transportation. Transportation is most difficult for those that are homeless, because most of the outfits that would or could drive a veteran, you have to have a phone and you have to have a place to live, or they don't pick you up. And so this guy's that come out of the woods and come to my home, to my food shelf, and I give them meat and eggs and canned goods and dry goods, and they go back to the woods. And that's okay, because my big thing, especially retiring from food service, I fed everybody, you know, and if you don't feed somebody, they get ornery. And I like the fact that I can feed anybody that comes to my door. And one of the things that will, that I'll put in here is that a lot of the guys and girls and ladies that come, you know, if they had issues overseas and they come back and they get in a fight and now they got a felony and now they can't do this, they can't get an apartment, they don't want to go to the VA because that means they got to stand up and take notice. So they don't involve themselves with the VA the way they should. And I'm sort of off the grid a little bit in that way, in that I don't care if they have a record or they punch somebody. But, you know, one of the gals that came here, she lives in a tent down, actually between here and Whiting. She lives in a tent in the woods. And I don't blame her. She came back, somebody goosed her in a bar in Burlington, she decked him, and she got arrested. Because she punched him. And in the service, we might pinch each other a little bit, but if you get punched, you earned it. In this place, you do it in Burlington, you get arrested. I worked with Dr. Tom Simpatico, UVM, as I was starting this. And he brought together a group of people that came back from deployment. The scenario from all of them was they all got in trouble. All various different things. And in many cases, if it was a woman and somebody goosed her and she decked them, she got arrested. Lost her kids, lost her apartment, you know, lost her job. You know, the whole thing is set up poorly for a veteran that comes back, and women especially. And it just sucks that they have to, you know, hitchhike to my house to get food because they don't have any money. And I don't care that is what they had to do to get here. I'm glad that we can help them, and I want all of you people to know that there's so many really good veterans that want to do something, but they're scared to step back up again because they got a felony or this, or they're back in their child support. Everybody's got stuff, and veterans have a lot.
Can I introduce Senator Brian Collmore, who got here late because he was at the Rave Car Show accepting a check for the WSYB Christmas fund. So you can see we got a lot of horsepower here too, as far as the state legislature goes. Bob and Bill.
You know, also Senator Susi is here now with us. I don't think we introduced you earlier, and I apologize for that.
No, Terry did mention me. It's just glad to be here. See what I can do to help.
Can I make some announcements? Bob?
Oh,
Can I
yes.
make some announcements?
Yeah.
I just want to make a couple of announcements. We talked a little bit about the Vermont Adaptive Program. So we always keep these flyers as well, but they get distributed. There's Vermont Adaptive programs that are going on all the way into August. And these are out on the internets. They're all tell you about different programs, where they're going to participate, all throughout the entire state. Pam Prue from the Rutland area, she's one of the social workers right here at the Seabach. She's putting on a barbecue for the veterans on August 15th over at Plymouth State Park, where we were just talking about Wooded Reserve. This is a great opportunity. Healing Waters comes on board, and they bring their fly tying classes there. Northeast Passage, which is a University of New Hampshire connection, they bring kayaks and boats. We cook all the food. It's all donated. Everything comes on board. One thing we have a hard time doing is transporting the veterans over there. We used to be able to do that, but my organization no longer does that. But we get people to volunteer to drive the veterans over there. Usually about 25 to 30 veterans come out there. The other thing is Military Appreciation Night next week, Lake Monsters. They have the baseball game next Wednesday, the 18th of July. It's a great opportunity. It's sponsored by Revision up in the Burlington area. If you can attend, I'm pretty sure the military, with a military ID of some sort, get in free.
Okay. Well, feel free to mingle and ask more questions one-on-one, or whatever you want to do. Thank you.
Thank you all for your service. Well, all the veterans.
It's good.
Thank you.